What do you mean it sucks?
This pepper beef is too damn spicy.
What are you talking about? This is good.
How's it going, guys? Pepper Spicy here. Hope you guys are doing alright. And this is the Martial Law Dragon Science Stance tutorial, where we're going to talk about Dragon Science Stance, Law's unique stance, in detail, but it's not too complicated of a stance, so we're not going to be here for a very long time, hopefully. So, getting started right away, a stance, if you don't know what a stance is a temporary or permanent, depending on, until you cancel it, type of ability that a lot of characters have. In fact, most of the cast has. I think only a few characters in the game don't have it. I think Asuka is one of them. I can't think of another at the moment, but a stance basically changes what moves you can do. So normally Law's one jab looks like this, but if I do it in the DSS stance, it turns into this. So a stance basically changes what kinds of moves you can do. The Dragon Charge, which is listed in the command list, is actually the new name for Law's new stance, or rather his stance since Tekken 4, is Dragon Science Stance, which looks like this. So that's down 1+2 for manual DSS. A lot of stances in the game have different purposes. Some people it's primarily for combos, some it's for extensions, some it's for mix-ups, some it's for evasiveness, and a lot of different properties. But Law's stance in particular is a couple things. One, it's a combo extender. So in a lot of combos, you'll see of Laws who are pretty okay at the game, you'll see them do that, which is forward 3 into DSS forward 4, which is also known as the Legend Kick. That is Law's best ender for a combo mid-screen usually, and that's something that you need to learn how to use DSS for. They might ask, like, is DSS super important to Law? I would say, if you're gonna be serious with Law, I would say, yeah, it's pretty important to learn. But if you just want to play Law really really simple, then it's not something you need to use in the neutral. However, if you want to use it if you want to get Law stronger combos, you definitely need to learn how to do it for combos. For use in the open, just like trying to open up your opponent, it's not completely necessary. The mix-ups in it are not necessary to play Law, but they can still be really useful to the game. So, you know, I would say learn it, why not? Law's stance is both a combo extender, like I've mentioned. It is a lag cancel. So what a lag cancel is, it basically cancels the recovery animation of the move. So for example, 4-3 normally looks like this. However, if I DSS it, it goes like this. So I can instantly go into DSS stance. So normally 4-3 on block, I believe, is -14. And if I do this, I believe now it's +7 on block. So that's really, really crazy. So if you didn't understand frame data, I essentially said that when I do regular 4-3, I am very vulnerable. If I do 4-3 into DSS, I actually attack really, really fast again out of DSS. I mean, out of the move. So the thing is, even though it's like +8 or whatever, you still can't block, because in DSS stance, Law cannot block. The third thing that DSS is really good for is pressure and counter hit baiting. I combine the two together because that's pretty much just DSS in the neutral game. So DSS has a lot of moves that are really good at baiting counter hit setups, such as DSS 2 is a really good counter hit move. DSS forward 2 also really good for setting up counter hits. DSS 4 is pretty good when it counter hits. DSS 1 is really good for cutting people. It's not a counter hit move, but it's really fast. DSS 4 3+4. And DSS 4-3 also very good for getting people who those moves aren't not necessarily counter hit tools, but they are really useful when someone is trying to press buttons against Law. Very useful. So on the DSS stance is a little weird, and what I mean it's a little weird is because yes, there's manual DSS, but what you actually do is you transition into DSS from a lot of Law's strings and attacks. One of the things that I think that Tekken fails to mention, unfortunately, is it doesn't really explain Law's stance very well. I believe in the last combo of Law's sample combos in the command list, he has, it shows you to do DSS, but it doesn't tell you that you can DSS from a lot of different attacks. So how do you do a DSS transition? There's two ways to do it. There is, after any punch, or most of the punches anyways, it's 1-2. I mean back forward. So 1-2, back forward. Let's say 2-2-2 back forward, back 2, back 2-2 rather, back forward, back 1 back forward, back 2, back 2-2 back forward, while standing 1 back forward, while standing 1-2 back forward, and while standing 3 forward, because while standing 3 takes you into Dragon Fake Step. Dragon Fake Step, while I'm at it, I might as well mention this, is the poor man's version of DSS, because as you can see, I am retreating and moving backwards. While I'm actually retreating, I actually cannot attack with DSS as fast as I can if I just did regular DSS. For example, look at the comparison to this. It's very slow, but look at the comparison to this. Very fast. That's DSS to DFS. I mean DFS to DSS. So Dragon Fake Step is something you don't normally want to use. And after any kick, or most of his kicks anyways, you can do back forward instead to enter Dragon Sign Stance. So after 4-3, I would just do back forward and enter Dragon Fake Step. After do Dragon Sign Stance, I would have to do back forward, and you could just mash out forward. It's just that the last forward has to connect as soon as the string ends. So if I messed it up, like let's say I was pressing forward. So you can see the command history, I did forward a lot, but I didn't do forward at the end of the string. So the game doesn't recognize me as inputting the second forward, sorry. So it doesn't actually work for me. It works for Junkyard Kick, I believe, as well. Yep. And 4-3 is pretty much the only runs you really want to use for the back forward. But they're really useful. Oh, and wall standing forward, can't forget about that. That's also really useful for DSS. So it's a little bit of a weird transition, and the timing for it, like for example, that looks like you didn't even see the DSS transition there because I did it so fast. So it takes a lot of practice to get used to, but with enough time and effort, you can eventually get it down. So the extension to the combo is already shown in the combo video that I have on my channel, but in short, it'll look something like, for example, at the wall. That's 4-3 into DSS 4-3, which was the DSS transition there in order to get the 4-3 out. And mid-screen, it'll look something like this. Yeah, something like that. So that's a DSS transition right there, mid-screen, and at the wall for combo extensions. There's also something you can do like, there's not many mid scenarios. Well, actually, I'll show the scenario, so you would have to do something like this. Yeah, like that. That's a DSS transition right there. Also, oh, that works too. Okay, so you can do that too. I didn't know that. But yeah, that's a DSS transition right there as well. So DSS is very good for extending combos, and if you want to see more of that in detail, just check out the combo video that I also have on my channel. And what about like DSS outside of combos, right? So DSS in the pressure and the neutral game. Now, like I said, this isn't something you usually need to know. Well, it's not something you need to use, rather. It's really nice to know it, but it's not something you need to use as Law because he doesn't really need it to win, but it's just a nice luxury thing. And personally, I think it's part of what makes Law really unique is having DSS in the first place, because it gives him access to a lot of really Bruce Lee-esque moves if you're a fan of Bruce Lee. So let's start talking about the moves in DSS. So first move, you have DSS 1 Dragon Knuckle. Dragon Knuckle is -11, but a lot of pushback on block. And you're never really gonna see someone try to punish this unless they don't know anything about this move, because Dragon Knuckle has 2 follow-ups, which is Dragon Knuckle forward 1, and Dragon Knuckle 4 as well. So this is a mix-up. So this comes out at 13 frames. So it's the second fastest move in DSS. The fastest move in DSS is forward 2. This move has 2 follow-ups. The forward 1 is a mid, which is -14 on block, but because of the initial hit, it has a ton of pushback. So the 1 into the forward 1 creates a lot of pushback, so this move usually doesn't go punished very often. So that's just a wall splitting damage move, and of course, it's either hit is confirmed as soon as the first hit connects. Also, interestingly, after you hit the first one, you can't mash out the second one. However, on block, you can mash it out. So like that, you can do it really quickly. The second hit is the Legend Kick, and the Legend Kick is a high. And the reason why the Legend Kick is good is because the Legend Kick, if blocked, is about +3 to +10, I'd say, depending on when the opponent blocked it. If they blocked it earlier, it's less plus frames. If they blocked it near the end, it's a lot of plus frames. So either way, you're always advantaged if Dragon Flight or Legend Kick, whatever you want to call it, is blocked. So the mix-up here is that either they want to duck that Legend Kick, because if they get put into the Legend Kick, that's more guessing they have to do. That's more mix-ups they have to deal with in the future. So they want to duck that Legend Kick because it's a high, and then you can very cleanly launch punish that for a lot of damage with, like, let's say Lost Standing 2. But, you know, the mix-up there is that the mid is there to check them. So if they start ducking, then the mid is there to be really scared. It's especially really scared at the wall because both options wall splat, and they both do a lot of damage for a wall splat combo. The thing is that you can actually delay this really long. So let's say if Leo blocked this and I just waited here for a very long time and then I do forward one. So if someone doesn't know about the move, you don't want to mash it out. You just want to, you know, bait it out a little bit, see if they press buttons, and then if they press buttons, just boom, go for the second one, and hopefully they'll get hit. This move also doesn't really have good tracking if you delay it, so if you do DSS 1 and they start sidestepping to Law's weak side, which would be his left, then they can step it completely. But if you do it really quickly, just like mash it out on block, they cannot step it, and their sidestep will get hit, and they will die to that. So it's just an option. This is not an amazing mix-up, but it's a decent one. Cloud Gate's DSS 2 is one of Law's best moves in DSS because this is a safe counter hit launcher that's high. There we go, something like that. I need to be warmed up before I can do this a lot. Yeah, there we go. So why Cloud Gates is really good is because I think it comes out at 14, so it's the third slowest move in DSS, and it's actually one of my favorite moves in the game because it's a really raw and like violent animation, just like really fast hook punch with your left jaw. The reason why this is good is because on block it has a lot of pushback, so it's safe, and I believe it's only -6 on block, I believe, so it's very safe. It is high, of course, that means it can be ducked, but on counter hit, this is actually one of Law's strongest launchers. Starting off, I believe, at like 24 or something like that. So that's 81 damage with the wall. So that's really strong if you get this on counter hit. So this is a forced hard knockdown on hit. So in this sort of stun state, if you don't know already, if you are hit by that stun state, at least I'd say more than half of the moves that put you into this stun state, you can back roll out of it to avoid getting hard knockdown. But certain moves, such as Law's DSS 2, forces you to stay in that hard knockdown state. So that's really good at the wall for Okazemi. This move also wall splats because it knocks down. So why you would mix this in with moves and timings when you think the opponent would counterattack you. For example, wall standing 3 is +5 on block. So if the opponent doesn't know that and they start trying to attack Law after wall standing 3 is blocked, you hit him with the DSS 2 and there's a high chance that you will get a counter hit, or at least a regular hit, doesn't matter. Both are good, and if you get a counter hit, you know, you get that really strong launcher, and that's really great. Also good is after wall standing 4, because it's also really good after DSS 2, wall standing 4, because wall standing 4, most people in the game have a safe wall standing 4 without any extensions to it. Leo and Law are the only ones that I know of at the moment that have extensions to their wall standing 4. Law has 2 extensions, which is DSS and wall standing 4-3, which is really risky. So this one is extremely risky. You don't ever want to really go for that unless you know the opponent's going to press buttons. Let's talk about this actually, because it'll help me explain the analogy of DSS 2. So this move is a counter hit launcher, right? So if wall standing 4 connects, the flip kick will connect on counter hit. You can't actually confirm, however, that the flip kick will connect. There's no way to be like, oh, it's counter hit, now it's time to do wall standing the 3 extension. No, you have to commit. You have to press both buttons at the same time for the move to come out. So that's a risk, because if this does not connect, the flip kick is actually very bad on block. It is launch punishable. So that's a big risk. This is a high risk, high reward kind of move. However, Law does not need to take that risk, because wall standing 4 can lead into DSS 2. And DSS 2 is a counter hit launcher on its own, and it's safe. Not only that, wall standing 4 into DSS is also on block at least +7 or so on block, so that makes it really, or I think it's +5 actually, really good. So it's like, why take the risk of wall standing 4-3 when you could just do wall standing 4 into DSS? Speaking of which, now that we're talking about DSS transitions into counter hit baiting, there is sort of a range of perfect DSS. Perfect DSS prefers to when you do the back forward instantly. So that means that like this was pretty close to perfect because I entered DSS as soon as wall standing 4 ended. So like a poor DSS would something be like that maybe, because it's a little bit late. The perfect DSS comes out really quickly after wall standing 4 or other DSS transitions such as 4-3. There we go, or junkyard kick. So the faster you get into DSS, the more plus frames you are. So even though I'm technically like +7 here, if I'm late on my DSS, I can still be jabbed out of this. So that's a little bit of an issue, but I mean, if someone's constantly jabbing while standing forward, then you might as well hit them with this. But if they do anything slower, like a slow move, whatever, try to do a mix-up after your block while standing forward, then the DSS2 will respect them to stop pressing buttons. Also, if you, this is a high, so that means that they might duck after while standing too. So that's when you can start mixing it up with other moves, which will come soon, such as Dragon Spin Kick, which is not actually something you would mix it up with, but I'll talk more about that later. So that's Cloud Gates for you. Cloud Gates is really good for DSS. One thing you have to be careful about is if this is blocked while standing forward into DSS, they can sort of step a lot of options from DSS, because DSS has weak tracking. A lot of the moves from DSS has weak tracking to Law's left side, which would be sidestep right for the opponent. So you have to be a little bit careful, because even though you're like a lot of plus frames here, the moves from DSS do not have good tracking to Law's weak side, so they can avoid a lot of it by sidestepping right. So you have to be a little bit careful if it's blocked. On hit, they don't have enough time to sidestep at all, and if they try to sidestep, they'll immediately get tagged by whatever DSS move. Pretty much any DSS move will tag them if this is hit. Okay, so Dragon Spin Kick is Law's DSS3, and it is an option for people who are stepping DSS a lot. It's also a tailspin move, so this means that it pretty much you can use this as a combo to create a screw attack state. However, this move, by the way, is safe on block and is a really good home move because it tracks 180 in front of Law. It's a really big animation. The issue I have, this one has a ton of pushback as well. Safe, like -1, and tons of pushback. But the thing that makes me not like this move that much is because it's pretty slow. So one of the options that people can, and it's a high, so one of the options that people can do to option select DSS is sidestep right, then duck immediately, because DSS3 will whiff over them because it's a high. So unfortunately, it's just very slow as a move, and it actually hits Law's weak side later because the attack comes from his left side first. I mean his right side first, so that means that it's going to hit people who sidestep the Law's weak side later rather than sooner, and they can duck it. So it's a little bit careful. I mean, if someone's sleeping at the wheel and they don't realize that they're not immune to DSS moves just because they sidestep, then this could catch them, but at the same time, it's not one of my most favorite routes. I wish it was faster, I wish it was better, I wish it was a mid, but then I guess that would make Law OP. You know, actually, I would be fine if it was unsafe if they just made it mid, or faster. I'd be happier with that. Dragon Charge Kick, this is a new move that he got in Tekken 7, DSS4. DSS4 is a decent tracking low, actually. It tracks both sides, not entirely well, but it tracks pretty okay. But the thing about this move is that it is a standard low poke that I believe gives +4-ish on hit, and recovers full crouch, so that's really strong. And on block, it's -13, and it's just a standard low poke from DSS. The thing about this is that this is the only low that Law has from DSS, so if somebody is just stand blocking DSS, because all of DSS's attacks are high and mid, so there's no real reason to block low, except for this. So this could actually sneak in a lot, because unless someone's like ducking the highs, then they're just going to get hit by this, because if they're really conditioned to just be content and just hold back against DSS, this could help in opening someone up. Also, it hits grounded out. And on counter hit, this causes a hard knockdown, forced hard knockdown, so you can actually get a guaranteed 4/4 after for 36 damage. You could also do Dragon Tail, but it does the same amount of damage, but I think 4/4 is more reliable because it's faster and there's less risk to using it. And if you're at the wall, counter hit DSS4, it leads to a guaranteed Dragon Stop, which is hype as F! Oh my god, that's so hype. Jesus. Look at this. Wow! Wow! Yeah, that's sick. I love that. But that's pretty cool. Anyways though, so that's really decent. It's a good low poke, it's just a little bit slow. That's the only problem with it. Also, one scenario that you should be careful of is, even though it has good tracking, if you try to use it after someone tech rolls, which would be getting up like Leo is doing right now, it's gonna whiff, because the sidestep, the automatic sidestep from the tech roll is actually gonna be too much combined with the combined with the invincible frames of the tech roll, combined with the fact that when Law is in DSS already, he does not auto-correct, so he's not going to be facing the same direction as Leo. For example, like that, see, Law was a little bit to Leo's left, so it's going to whiff just like there. So you have to be careful when using it when someone's about to get up. Next we have is DSS Quick Hook, which is 1+2. DSS Quick Hook is really good. It kind of got nerfed and buffed at the same time, so we got a compensation buff. So this is now a armor move. In previous Tekken, it was also an armor move, but instead it made Law invulnerable. So that means that if a move connect on him, he would not take damage, but it would only absorb 1 to 2 hits. I mean, 2 hits actually. So now it absorbs as many hits as you want, but it's also, you take damage for it now. This move is also -10 with a ton of pushback, so it's pretty much safe. Even at the wall, this has pushback, and in that scenario also, this is really good at the wall because this is an armor move that is kind of slow, but at the same time, the armor on it starts up really fast. So let's say I did wall 74 into quick hook, and they probably try to press buttons against it, and they eat this armor move into a wall splat, and this hard knocks down as well. So this is really good for wall damage and for just punishing people who are trying to press buttons against DSS. It's kind of a safe option because, you know, you might get the timing wrong for the DSS too. So this has a lot of leniency because of the armor on it starts up really fast. Also no tracking on this move as well. Alright, so Facelift and Dragonfire are DSS throws. Now the problem with this is it's generally okay against weaker players, but the thing that's wrong with this is that I'm not sure if this was an intended nerf or not, but this throw mix-up got nerfed in Tekken 7 because of the universal throw changes. So in Tekken 7, all generic throws can be broken by 1 or 2. So that means that this DSS mix-up kind of lost its value, which is weird because DSS 2+4, which is this unique throw he has from DSS, one of my favorite throws in the game, is only a 2 break, so it's a command throw. However, DSS 1+2 is, even though it comes from DSS, 1+3, even though it comes from DSS, is still a regular throw. So that means that both throws are option selected by pressing 2 break. But if someone doesn't know that, then just continue using DSS 2 against them because they're not going to know that it's a 2 break. But once they start breaking 2, then they're going to always match 2 against DSS, so you have to be careful because then the DSS throw kind of loses its value unless you sneak it in. If they don't know about that, then after confirmed punishes, such as 4-3, you can actually do DSS throw for 61 damage for 4-3, or while standing 4 into DSS for a lot of damage as well. Something like that, yeah. That's not actually guaranteed. It says it's guaranteed on the combo meter, but that's not guaranteed. It's always breakable. Dragon Roar, which is DSS forward 1, which is a move I talked about previously, which is DSS 1 into forward 1, but it's forward 1 by itself. Forward 1 comes out at 18 frames, -14, but because it doesn't have the additional pushback of DSS 1, this actually is decently punishable. Even though it has pushback, it's decently punishable by a good portion of the cast, so you have to be careful about that. This is your fastest mid, I think. Actually, no. This is one of the wall splat mids that you have from DSS. So there is a faster mid in DSS, which is the DSS 3+4. But this move just generally is really good against people who are, ducking DSS because it actually has a slight high crush too, and some slight evasive property. So it's really good for someone who is trying to duck DSS and is just trying to match it out, maybe like a dick jab or something. So this will beat them out. So that's really good, but essentially though, unless you're at the wall, DSS 3+4 is better for that because it's faster, comes out at 14 frames instead of 18, so that's generally better. Also, it's an auto launch, so that's generally better if someone's ducking DSS. Dragon Cannon DSS 4-3 is really good as well. It is probably a good change to DSS because this makes people really scared to get press buttons against DSS because sort of an option select against DSS that people do is Dick Jab because a lot of the moves from it are high, and this is really fast so that it'll beat out you if you don't do a perfect DSS. So Dragon Cannon is sort of an option select against that because by having a mid power crush that also does a ton of damage, you can sort of stop people from pressing buttons against DSS. So let's say that this was counter hit, this is going to do 60, or 54 rather. So that's really strong, especially at the wall. This is going to do a wall splat. So that's, wow, 70 damage. So that's incredibly strong after a counter hit. So that's really scary, and it makes people not want to press buttons against DSS. The problem is if you're doing this and they don't press buttons and they just block it, this is launch punishable with a little bit of pushback. So you have to be careful because it can definitely be punished for a lot of damage. Dragonflight, oh, by the way, the reason why you would use this over DSS 1+2 is that DSS 1+2 and DSS 4-3 are options. So if they start ducking, DSS 4-3 is better, but DSS 4-3 in general is a lot slower than DSS 1+2. So DSS 1+2 is more reliable in getting the armor to actually be effective, while DSS 4-3 is a bit slower and a little bit riskier because the armor starts up later. Dragonflight, DSS forward 4, also known as the Legend Kick, is a move that also got buffed in Tekken 7 because this move used to come out a lot slower, so it was pretty bad to use in the open because it was easily duckable. Now it's kind of okay to use in the open as long as you do it very quickly, so just instant DSS, which is just down 1+2 straight into forward 4, like that. It's plus, like I mentioned earlier, it's the same exact move as DSS 1 forward 1. Actually, it does more damage, but it's pretty much the same move otherwise. It gives a lot of plus frames on block, and it's a duckable high. Also, on hit, I believe it is a forced hard knockdown just like DSS 2, and it wall splats as well. The one thing that a lot of really new Law players use is fake step into forward 4, or DSS into forward 4 randomly. Now, one thing I'll say that I didn't mention already is that fake step, which is back 1+2, which is Law's punch parry, is the exact same stance as DSS. This gives options to a lot of his DSS attacks. The only exception is DSS 2 is replaced by wall standing 2, which is actually Law's strongest launcher, but this is incredibly hard to hit, so I really wouldn't think about using this move too much. But anyways, fake step is not an easier way to do DSS because it's actually a really slow DSS because I'm mashing out 4 and look how long it takes me to cancel it into the move, so it's not an option you want to do. But back to what I was saying is that not so great Laws, they're going to do fake step out here and they're going to do Legend Kick. So anytime that if you're defending against Law and he's doing this or this all the way out here, you know Legend Kick's coming, because if you think about it, there isn't going to be a move with any threat to you at this range besides Legend Kick because it's so far range. So pretty much as soon as you see him do this, just start ducking, because it means that he's going to do Legend Kick. But if he's up here and he's pretty close, then it's sort of a mix-up, because that means that Law has a lot of different options here to do. And you have to be careful about that because Law can do different things instead of, Legend Kick. But if he's all the way out here, then, Legend Kick is probably coming. So there's no harm in ducking. And there's more moves that it's not listed here. I guess I don't know why I didn't list the rest of them, but I'll explain them in brief. We have back 3+4 from DSS, which is the same move as his back 3+4, which is his backswing blow. This is an evasive move, which to my opinion, doesn't have much use in DSS because you have the armor moves, and it's basically a move that baits people into attacking, and then it'll make them whiff because it retreats a little bit and then auto attacks, and then it wall splats for a soft knockdown. Also, this move is launch punishable, so I'd be really careful about it, although it was buffed in Tekken 7 because it has better, it's much faster at startup now, so it's a lot more useful. Also, we have DSS 4 which is his forward 3+4. I covered the use of that in my Law tutorial, the major one. Very good move, good at crushing lows, good to stop people who are low in DSS. The low crush starts out kind of late, but it's still really decent. Also a counter hit launcher as well. And DSS 3+4, which is his 14-frame launcher. All of the fastest mid from DSS, so really good for getting people who are ducking DSS a lot. And one of the moves I can't believe they didn't mention was DSS 4-2. DSS 4-2 is pretty integral, I'd say, to DSS at the neutral game because DSS 4-2 is his fastest move from DSS. So, that is pretty much uninterruptible by anything. 4-2 and DSS 2 are the same. DSS 4-2, sorry, are the same move. So they both come out at 12 frames, and they're both neutral on block and a couple plus frames on hit. So why is neutral on block really good is because this creates situations where the opponent might press buttons because they think it's their time to attack. So let's say something like, this, like that, like after that's blocked, they're like, oh, he looks like he's done with his attack, time for me to attack. Well, in this scenario, you have a lot of options here. You could sidestep to bait them, you could backdash to bait them, you could just block to, block the mix-up. You could do something unique to Law, which is you could do continue the string, 2-2-2-2-2, delay it a little bit, or you could do counter hit 4. So let's say something like that. Like if that connects, that's hard start at 11 frames. So that means that if they did anything slower than 11 frames, so 12 frames and beyond, they're gonna get put into a counter hit launcher. So people who aren't really familiar with Law will really get opened up by this. There we go, and then another one. And they'll usually get counter hit on the second challenge spin kicks because that's an I-11 move, and they'll continually put them in pressure. Of course, there's a way around that. Those are all highs, so you can all duck it. So that's really, really, really good. So this can create a lot of situations where it can open up the opponent really easily with counter hits because they think it's their time to attack. So in a sense, it's actually very similar to Huarong, because Huarong creates a lot of custom strings with his mix-ups and his flamingo and his right foot forward and his left foot forward stance mix-ups, but Law also has this as well by creating custom strings from his DSS stance like this. He's constantly doing this. This is constantly 0 on block, constantly 0 on block. So that's really good for making the opponent really, really hesitant to press buttons. Also, if they are pressing buttons, they can get counter hit really, really, really easily. So that's really, really good. And if you want to see an example of how DSS is used in neutral, I like to do what is called a, well, what I like to call anyway, a DSS chain, which is a lot of custom strings and mix-ups based on DSS cancels. For example, I'm going to show you pretty much something Law is capable of that other characters can't do. And you're going to pretty much see a lot of DSS in this sort of mix-up game. So watch this. So that's pretty much one example. And if you watch the command history, you can see that I canceled into DSS quite a bit. There was a lot of DSS canceling over there, and I'll show another variation like this. No, something like that as well. So a lot of those scenarios, there were pretty much if the opponent pressed the wrong button at any time during that, they're gonna get counter hit really, really, really easily. So that's really, 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 really deadly. And it's what I showed is basically mixing in Law's DSS with other moves in the in his neutral game. So back turned, while standing, 4-3 of course is a DSS transition. Okay, so I showed a lot of 4-3 there somewhat, but you have to be careful about using 4-3 because 4-3, because it DSS transitions is really good, the entire move is duckable. So you have to be really careful because once this starts getting ducked, you're gonna get screwed in the pooch. So you don't really want to do that because this becomes useless once the opponent starts ducking it on reaction. Also, DSS chain, while it is really, really, really cool, it's kind of hard if someone is backdashing a lot because they start to go out of the range of DSS moves. So you have to be careful about that because if they get out of the range of DSS moves, then you're just gonna start whiffing, and you don't want that because obviously, if you're whiffing, that's really, really, really bad, and then you're gonna get punished. However, if you're at the wall, you can pretty much keep doing this. So it's really fun, I gotta say, just doing stuff like this. And stuff like that. So that's really tricky actually. There's so many options that I didn't mention here. Like I don't always have to do down 3 when I go into back throw. I could do 2. I could do jabs. I mean, like I could go on and like throw or something. Like you know, there's so many things you do. Like you could just one of those wall setting 4s, you could just DSS, or you could do, you know, like instead of wall setting 3, just wall setting 4, you do that. That's honestly so crazy when I think about it. That's crazy that Law can really do that. Of course, that's only super possible at the wall. If you do it mid-screen, they can sort of get away with that. I mean, they can sort of get away. So that's, what you call it? That's really, whew, I actually really like doing that as well. But that's not everything to Law. Like, you can't always do that. That's not something that you can get away with for free all the time, because there are a lot of pressing buttons, so you're actually a little bit like a Huarong player when you do that. So, you'd be a little bit careful about it, but yeah, that's DSS for you. That's pretty much all the moves, and I pretty much showed you how you can mix that in with other moves. Doing DSS, that might be something that could honestly be really helpful in this tutorial, right? So, I already explained to you that you do 1-2 after any jabs, after most of the jab string, so that's during it. So when you do 1-2, you do back forward during it. So that's really self-explanatory, that should be really easy. For any of the kicks, that's where it gets a little bit hard. So back forward during the string, and you want to make sure that the last forward hits during the last portion of the move. So if there's no forward at the end of the move, it's not going to register. So you can remember to do back as well, because if you don't do back at all, it's not going to register. So you can find the timing for it if you want. That's just how you do it. but I personally just prefer to mash it out because I just don't want to, you know, have no margin of error. So I just prefer to constantly press forward, and I keep pressing forward until I get a feel for it. Because it's going to get to the point where you already know you're in DSS, so you're going to start doing the moves really early. So, you know, I'm going to be like pretty much buffering, which buffering, by the way, means that you're doing the moves before they come out, forward 2, before it even connects, because I know that I'm already in DSS. Wall standing 4 into DSS is probably one of the harder ones to do because it is a single hit move and there's not a lot of time to do DSS, but pretty much you want to do back forward forward when the hit connects and right afterwards. So as soon as it connects, back forward forward. So not before or not after. So right as it connects, boom, DSS. Boom, DSS. Boom, DSS. Oh, I can't do it before. Boom, DSS. You could also help this a bit by doing well, a full crouch move, and that will leave you recovering afterwards, so you could sort of like buffer it later, like you can just help it without. But if you want to do like instant wall standing 4 into DSS, like just crouch immediately in wall standing 4, that's a really good way to practice too. Oops, DFS. So even I can't get it all the time. It's a little bit tricky, but you know, with enough practice, you can get it for sure. So he doesn't even have to do like the arm, like, you know, moving thing, like the pose. Like as soon as you just have the forward entered, you're already in DSS. You don't have to wait for him to do the, you know, the arm motion, whatever. And there's pretty much just, I guess, one last thing, 2 more things. One is you can really sort of like advanced mix-up, or bait rather, is do wall standing 4 in the open and then cancel into DSS. So something like that in the open, just do like, oh, I'm wall standing 4 and then immediately DSS, and then you can counter hit them or bait them to come in as soon as they like, oh, you have to move, time to attack. Well, then that's when you hit them with that, or you know, something like that, or something like that. So that's just, you know, basic, not basic, but it's sort of like an advanced mind game. Is just whiffing while standing 4 into DSS, something like that too. That's really tricky. Can't use that all the time, but it's certainly really good when you're feeling yourself and you're really confident in your DSS. One more thing is that if DSS 4 wall standing 4 counter hits, you're plus 17 at perfect DSS depending on how fast you DSS. Actually, yeah, plus 17 I think, or plus 14 at a minimum. So this means that this is actually confirmed. It's just really hard, and so that's confirmed. There's DSS 2. So DSS 2 is confirmed on wall standing 4, and DSS 3 plus 4 or 4. That's confirmed on counter hit. They're just really, really, really hard. There, see, that's that was pretty much perfect DSS, and that's pretty hard to do. Not gonna lie, that's really hard to do. There we go. That's also really hard to do. That takes a lot of practice. That was pretty much perfect DSS. I can't get that consistently, and you can't really confirm if that's counter hit, so that's not something you can really go for all the time. However, if you're really like confident and you're like, sure, oh, like that was definitely a counter hit, then you can definitely go for that. That's a little bit too crazy for me. I definitely need to practice that more myself as a player, but you know, it's there. It's definitely there, and it's definitely a thing that you can do. Also, mixing in, you know, DSS mixed up with wall standing 4 into the slide mix up is also really nice, because you could be like, oh, here's my mix up, and then it did wall standing 4. It's like, oh, all I did was wall standing 4, whatever. I was so scared about wall standing 2. Thankfully, it's just a wall standing 4. Like, oh, no, just kidding. I'm still gonna attack you. You know, the pressure game continues, whatever. I wish there was a move that put you into full crouch from DSS. That would be really nice, because you could do a full crouch mix up from it automatically. But maybe that's Tekken 8 or something, or Tekken Tag 2, or Tekken Tag 3. Or Tekken X Street Fighter if that ever comes out. Oh man, that is so hard. Anyways though, so that's DSS for you. In summary, it is a combo extending stance. It is a slight stance mix-up with an emphasis on continuing pressure and baiting for counter hits. For example, forward 2 is neutral on block, so that leads to counter hit 4. DSS 2 is a counter hit launcher, which starts at 14 frames, so that's really good too. DSS 1 is really fast, comes at 13 frames. DSS back plus 4, DSS 4-3, DSS 1 plus 2, also all really good at catching people pressing buttons against DSS. So you want to stop people from pressing buttons against DSS, and if they don't press buttons against DSS, then you want to start doing forward 2, and forward 2 continues the mix-up game because it's neutral on block, so you can continue to do other stuff afterwards. And if they don't do anything against DSS at all, they continue to block mid-high, then start doing DSS 4. The DSS mix-up is a little bit weaker because of the 2 break change. that's pretty much all you need to know about DSS. Use it in neutral or not, it's entirely up to you, but you pretty much always want to use it in combos. Thank you guys for watching, follow me on the social medias, and check out the other law videos and other videos I have on my channel if you want to see more about law or Tekken in general. Thank you guys for watching, I'll see you guys next time.